Cybersecurity is about more than just technology. It's about how people behave with emails, data, and cloud applications that directly impacts your company's security posture. Security works best when it's ingrained in the culture of your organization. To learn how to build a security culture and transform your employees from targets into a strong line of defense, head to securityweekly.com/proofpoint and visit their Cybersecurity Awareness Center. Every 11 seconds, there's a new ransomware attack. Oil pipelines, universities, corporations, all paying millions of dollars. Barracuda says, don't pay the ransom. Before a ransomware attack occurs, train your teams to recognize an attack and use anti-phishing technology. Protect your applications, and they can't get onto your network. Simple backup and restore solutions quickly recover your data without paying the ransom. Build your ransomware protection plan now by visiting securityweekly.com/barracuda. That's securityweekly.com/barracuda. Let's face it, cyber attackers have the advantage. Extra Hop is on a mission to help you take it back. Regain the upper hand with security that can't be undermined, outsmarted, or compromised. When you don't have to choose between protecting your business and moving it forward, that's security uncompromised. See how it works in the full product demo, free online at securityweekly.com/extra hop.
Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Security Weekly Unlocked will be held in person this December 5th through 7th at the Hilton Lake Buena Vista. We've got keynotes from Alyssa Miller, John Strand, Leslie Carhart, and Dave Kennedy. Visit securityweekly.com/unlock to register and check out our rockstar lineup. If you missed any of our previously recorded webcasts or technical trainings, they are available for your viewing pleasure at securityweekly.com/on-demand. And now on to the Enterprise Security Weekly news. All right. I feel like I'm talking faster just because we had Joe on the last segment.
He was moving. He was definitely high speed.
I feel like I need to compete. I need to speed up my.
No, you just talk to me. I'm nice and slow.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to start?
I think we will make it easy on Gus and go in order.
Wow.
If because we try and put the timestamps in there, and I sort it in a specific order. So why not? So the first one, I've got I think I've got all the fundings in order of biggest to smallest. And the first one I think is I've got it labeled as funding, but it's also a trend. So cyber insurance firms that are also actively building, selling, implementing security tools. So they're essentially kind of like MDR firms or security platform firms. I'm guessing maybe they're white labeling a lot of this stuff, but in this case, we're talking about a firm called Coalition, who got a 205 million Series E, and they're valued at 3.5 billion. And this is in the last maybe 18 months, they've raised $500 million.
Crazy. That's crazy. 890 million valuation to 3.5 billion valuation in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely insane. Like, how much revenue growth do you have to get that? And maybe they've got that revenue growth. I don't know. That's crazy growth.
I think it's something that, knee-jerk response. I don't want to like an insurance company that's also selling me, products to make my security better. But at the same time, like, who's better incentivized, to make sure you don't have a breach so that they don't have to pay out a policy. But then on the other side, as the customer, how can they come back and tell me, oh, we're not going to pay this out, like your security sucked? I'm like, you're my security. Like, you put it there. Like, I feel
certainly
like I
makes
have
it hard
some
to
confidence
fight.
that they'd at least pay out the policy, right?
Yeah. So the question I have on this one, though, you said insurance companies that have products. What's your thoughts, Adrian, on product companies that insure their product, the efficacy of their product? Is that the same thing, or is there enough of a subtle difference?
No. I think it's very similar. It's basically putting money where your mouth is and saying, hey, we believe in this strongly enough, that will, help if it puts you in a financial bind because of some failure of our product. So it's
maybe not. because I would agree with you in the sense that if the company themselves are putting up that money, but if they're just outsourcing it as a third-party risk policy, they're getting essentially options on that, right? They're paying dollars to millions or pennies to dollars to ensure the percentage chance that occurs, right? So yes, they're putting some money behind it, but it's not as deep as one might think.
And if you look at some of those those security product warranties that are basically backed by a cyber insurance policy, there's some fine print. You definitely want to check out that fine print on where and how that thing is paid out. Like in some cases, I've seen it. Like if you manage it yourself, it's basically invalid. Like it's only valid if you're using the MDR services that they provide, where they manage the product fully themselves. So yeah, I thought that was it's an interesting trend, and I don't think it's necessarily a negative trend. I think we're still early enough in cybersecurity that we need more people trying different approaches.
Yeah, I definitely don't have.
They did acquire Binary Edge, so I know at least some of their stuff isn't white labeled. They acquired an attack surface management vendor in early 2020. I don't know anything about the rest of it, though. But if you look at what they've got, I mean, it's almost like a trust wave where they've got a little of everything.
Yeah, I think Arcos Labs did something recently, too, where they did a $1 million, I'm trying to type it as we speak here. I think it was $1 million guarantee or $1 million insurance kind of thing as well. Yeah, they announced a $1 million credential stuffing warranty, which is exactly like you say, putting your mouth where your product is, right? If your product doesn't stand up to the credential stuffing attack in the sense of Arcos Labs, right? They're gonna pay out, and sure, it's limited to $1 million, which in an enterprise may not be 1/10 or 1/100th of the potential impact of a credential stuffing attack, but at least there's something there. At least there's some value being provided to back up what they have.
And we've got somebody from Cyber Insurance scheduled to come on the show. In fact, Jeffrey Smith, who's the person coming on, he partnered with Jeremiah Grossman on some of those warranties that Jeremiah Grossman did, I think, for White Hat Security and for Sentinel-1 when he was at Sentinel-1.
I mean, I love the idea. If we could get some more consistency around it without the fine print that makes it a scary proposition for customers, there could be value around that.
Yeah. Some of these others don't want to spend too much time on unless you see something interesting here. Feel free to jump in. But Panorays raised $42 million. That's a cyber risk management platform provider.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about them.
No. Yeah, me neither. Senson, I mean, I've heard the name, and this is actually because I don't know a whole lot about this. This is a product category that we're going to kind of dive into. These kind of, I don't know if this is a SaaS-based one, but risk management platforms in general. So looking forward to learning more about these. Much like how the rays of the sun illuminate everything they touch, Panorays was designed to bring visibility into previously unseen elements of supplier cyber risk. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, what about Scrambler? J Scrambler. I mean,
yeah, J Scrambler is interesting. So it's like a client-side security product. Basically, protecting against bots and JavaScript attacks against JavaScript, stuff like that. Stuff that really attack the users of the product.
I mean, it looks like they're encoding or otherwise, locking down any scripts so that if you try and mess with them on the way, it won't happen. But interesting.
They do some obfuscation. Also,
yeah, a little concerned about their claims about what they say the default or best solution for that. I was kind of like, say what? But what they're doing is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's not super new ground. Again, this is not a space that I'm really savvy on. Tyler might know more about it, because I think it's somewhat tangential to the space you used to be in when you were at Signal Sciences? The whole
it's actually closer. It's my understanding it was originally, Scrambler was originally closer to more of the AppSec code obfuscation side. And I believe they're moving more towards the runtime style protections with protections for MageCart and other data exfiltration type things. And that's where they've extended their platform. So I would say it started in one thing. They've added and pivoted to additional product lines, which allow them to do more runtime detection and blocking of client-side style attacks, which puts them more into, say, bot protection, some of the similar things to Arcos Labs, bot protection, credential stuffing, and those kinds of protections. So, yeah, it's an interesting market, this kind of in-app protection market or online fraud market. It's definitely a hot and growing area. But good for them, for picking up the money that they did. Getting that funding round of $15 million on such a small project is great.
Yeah. So we've also got Senson in here. They raised $20 million. Again, this is pretty early days. I haven't seen the product yet. I think they actually. Is this the one where they have a free trial where you can just jump right into it? I think it might be. So looking forward to checking it out, but almost gives me kind of an XDR kind of feel, where they're trying to, do a better job of pulling out interesting insights and things like that from your products.
Is this Senson.io? That one or .com? Because
yes,
.com
not
is
.com. .com is a completely different company.
This is killing me with these whole TLDs now.
I know.
The .io and .com, you have the same damn company, and they both happen to be in cyber. .com is a keyless protection system, so it's a physical security system.
I don't know why you go forward with the branding when you're going to have to compete. And like 50% of people are going to go to the wrong website. Like I don't even know how you get this.
As a marketer, I 100% wouldn't do that. But sometimes you don't know, right? Sometimes you get stuck. Like if we talk about Jupiter One, a funny story about Jupiter One. There's a band called Jupiter One. So we actually had to fight from a brand perspective, and they're fairly well known. They had a couple of hits. If you Google them, they actually have a hit. I'm sure you'll recognize.
You had to fight from a band perspective. Is that what you said?
I did. I had to fight against the
brand perspective.
Brand and band perspective. But no, we actually had to take their Twitter feed from them. We actually had to do a copyright. We had to trademark our brand and do a full copyright press against Twitter for them to release the Jupiter One band's Twitter feed to us. So we recently took that over. But to answer your question, sometimes you just don't know. Like I don't, I didn't brand Jupiter One. I came in later on, but yeah, you just bump into these collisions sometimes. It's not always the easiest thing to deal with. But anyways, long story too long, these, Senson seems to be the, this kind of holistic cyber defense platform, automating threat detection, investigation, response. The website looks a little bit, I do everything for everybody. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can figure out their position and make it a very direct position that people will want to get involved with and buy.
Yeah. Battle of the brands.
Yeah. Battle of the bands, battle of the brands. I see what you did there, Adrian. Well played.
Yep. It was right there. I had to take it.
I lobbed it up for you. You got it.
So I'm not sure how to pronounce this brand, but Exein. I think they're Italian. Raised 6 million euros and going after a very familiar topic for you and me, Tyler, going after getting IoT devices maintained and firmware updated and stuff like that.
Yeah, the question is, how are they doing it? Are they doing it outside in, detection based? Are they doing it, some kind of, is it within the hardware itself? I'm guessing it's an outside in kind of play.
I don't see any way to, and this is a huge problem. So I'm testing vulnerability management right now, and almost every major vulnerability scanner out there doesn't know what to do with IoT devices. They don't know what they are. They say, oh, it looks like embedded Linux, and that's about it. And I don't see any way to do this where somebody or a lot of somebodies are probably going to have to duplicate this effort where they go through and catalog every single IoT device, whether they're like here in my case, in my lab, they're Ubiquiti network devices. And yes, they're running Linux. And yes, it looks like Debian, but they are very not managed like Debian Linux servers. They get their own patches, their own models, their own firmware, and so does every line of medical devices and everything else you can imagine in this IoT space. And they're all going to have different firmware numbering systems, different places to download the firmware. It's a lot of legwork just categorizing all that stuff, cataloging it, and writing detections for it so you can detect those devices. But I don't see any other way to do it. Somebody's going to have to sit down and do all that work.
Yeah, I mean, good. I mean, the only thing that pops out to me is, could we do something that's crowdsourced, right? And kind of outsource, hey, new device, submit it. What's the fingerprints look like from an outside-in perspective, and figure out a way to crowdsource the detections, right? And maybe that's the thing that Rumble could do, or some of these vuln scanners could potentially do. But, if Nmap hasn't done it over the last 20 years, is it even possible?
Yeah, so Rumble is the only one really scratching the surface there. When I run Rumble, it not only knows that these are Ubiquiti devices, it's the only product in the entire security space I've seen that even does that much. But it knows how to pull the model number and the firmware number off of the device, because there's a proprietary service where you can grab that. So the vendor on their end, they've actually made it pretty easy to catalog and identify this device. But the vendors making the asset management, the scanning tools need to know it's there, how to query it, and write that piece.
Yep. In looking at the Exein or however you pronounce it website, they say ML-driven firmware security solution. Exein Core uses neural networks to learn the expected behavior of a device, and uses this understanding to constantly monitor its functioning and protect it from cyber threats, both known and unknown. So it looks like it's doing some kind of analytical fingerprinting on actions, data in, data out. It's a combo platter of detection-based things. It looks like it's not something that they're going to install inside of devices or at the firmware level, from an SDK perspective, or finding ways to have firmware use their code directly. So it's got to be an external in type of view. And how is that different than any of the other behavioral analytical tools that we've seen over time? We're just targeting an ICS or an IoT device, right? How is that different than anything else?
So this is active defense that sits on the IoT firmware. I had this all wrong.
Yeah, and just taking a peek at the Exein website under the technology stuff, that's what it looks like. But I'm not sure how that's differentiated in an ICS approach.
Because when I was reading the other article, I was pretty certain it was something they wanted you to embed with your SDK, so it was running in the IoT device itself with those services. And I was worried.
Hey, that would be wicked.
It would be, except for overhead. I mean,
yeah.
Then
getting
again,
the world to adopt it.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool. Really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, stuff like this has been around for a while. There was who is it? BlackBerry. I think built some stuff around this. There have been vendors out there for a while building basically host intrusion prevention stuff. Active detection prevention of threats. Made to be baked into firmware, and I just haven't seen a whole lot of companies go after that, because often they don't have to. People buying these IoT devices aren't demanding that kind of security baked into the firmware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would love to get them on and get an interview of them. I would love to hear them talk about what they do in depth, so that we don't mutilate their value proposition like we are potentially doing right now.
Maybe there's a reason they're in Europe and not in the US, and maybe because of that, they'll have more success than folks over here have.
Let's hope. I mean, it's innovative anyways.
Yeah. Yep. So PE firm invested in EC Council, the folks that do the certified ethical hacker cert. They're probably best known for that. So that was kind of interesting. We have seen more deals around some of the industries that don't sell products, but kind of rotate around cybersecurity. So I guess we've got kind of a trend going on there. And anybody touching security has like a golden sheen, I guess.
Print money.
For some of these firms. And LG, who has almost completely gotten out of smartphones, is acquiring an automotive cybersecurity startup called Cybellum for $250 million.
Yeah, Tel Aviv based, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to
Gold Star when I see that name.
Oh yeah.
That was their old brand.
Oh really? Okay.
Gold Star became LG.
Gotcha. Oh really? I didn't know that. I've had Gold Star appliances, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Life's good.
So I'm going to connect the Cybellum to the previous discussion of the Exein stuff. And looking at the Cybellum website, their headline is Product Security Lifecycle Management is a global leader providing integrated cyber solutions for leading device manufacturers. Isn't this very close potentially to firmware?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just more vertical specific.
Well, on their website, they have a Cybellum Automotive, Cybellum Medical, Cybellum Industrial. So it sounds like they've got a broad platform that actually did some of this stuff. And from a customer perspective, Land Rover, Jaguar, Audi, I think those are all the same brand. That might be kind of cheating. Renault.
Yeah, Tata.
Yeah, exactly. Nissan. So it looks like they got adopted quickly, but it was an attempt at doing hardware level product security from what I see on their website.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like they're particularly interested in the automotive side of it, though.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, it doesn't matter anyways. They've been picked up. They're off the table, and they're going to be working for somebody else at this point. So, and it sounds like by that press release that what they wanted to tout is the automotive side of that.
Right. So OneTrust acquired Tugboat Logic to automate InfoSec assurance and certification. So the very interesting space here. We've got another one we're going to talk about here. Basically, as I understand Tugboat Logic, there's a bunch of companies now that try and automate part of the like SOC 2 certification process.
Mm-hmm. So here's my take on that one, because Tugboat and Jupiter One compete occasionally. That is not that market is not a market. It's more of a feature. Meaning it's probably a market if you're willing to do small size deals with, frequent lower size deals with frequent higher frequency of selling, right? Kind of a different go-to-market motion. And that seemed to be a good market for Tugboat Logic. Vanta plays in there. There's a couple other players. I see these guys rolling up into the bigger cyber asset management players like Jupiter One, like Axonius, like others that have, a compliance section of what they do on a broader platform, right? Because really, what is compliance but knowing what you have, looking for evidence in real time against what you have, and then answering questions, i.e., do I have any buckets, S3 buckets externally accessible, or do I have any permissions that are out of whack, right? Whatever the audit requirements are. And that really comes down to knowing what you have at any given moment in time, which is a subset of the cyber asset market. So I think that's why you saw them get acquired. I don't remember the number that they got acquired for. I want to say 160, but I'm not sure. That could be just my memory failing me. But yeah, it's good for them, right? Good for them for getting a healthy exit, doing well, and landing in a place that I think they're going to continue to grow and be meaningful inside of OneTrust.
Yep. Yeah, I did not see a number for that deal. Did not see a deal size there.
Yeah, don't quote me on that number then. I'm probably making it up.
So next one, you'll want to actually click the link on this one and check that out. But so this is kind of the other side of it. Like if you can automate pulling all this stuff, what about automating, making it easy for people to find and to access? So Crossbeam has used a product called SafeBase to basically set up a live security page that for customers can log in and actually click and download, or at least it looks like they'd be able to click and download a copy of their SIG, their pen test report, their latest vulnerability results, and basically see the status of all their security and compliance stuff.
I think this is such a unique, really cool, transparent approach to cybersecurity for an enterprise. Because every enterprise out there, including the one I work for, is constantly being asked by customers, do you have these statuses? Do you have these reports? Do you have this level of security? And basically, you can just point them here and say, yep, you want to deep dive in it, we're happy to deep dive, but this is a constantly updated, real-time demonstration of our state of security. Obviously, there's some risks in that, because what happens if all of a sudden you put your access control panel up there and it says password security broken or login security broken?
It goes red, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that just might be begging for attacks in real time, but I think fundamentally this is a good high-level way of pointing customers to it. And maybe, and I think in the top it says log into private page, maybe this is it's a private page for all customers have access to it and all prospects, something like that.
I suspect the public version of this might be more static than it looks. It might not be entirely dynamic where it could just go red at any time, But
yeah, good question. But I think in theory, I like the idea. I think it's a really interesting way of surfacing the content.
But yeah, so SafeBase is the one that makes the tool that does this. And I've already talked to several other CISOs that say that they're actively working on the same thing. CISOs who work for vendors, for product companies. So it's looking like this is a pretty quick moving trend.
Yeah, well, I think every company should at least look into potentially buying it, or at least building something of their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's got to cut down on overhead for sales-facing folks, right? It's one of the most common questions you get. How do you do security? Can you send me a copy of your X, Y, and Z?
Yep, for sure.
All right, so the next one is really just something for listeners, readers to go off and check out. It's in the show notes, but. Basically, CB Insights always puts out some really good stuff. They have really interesting stats and things like that. Interesting insight into the different markups, startup markets here. And they've got a collection of 386 startup failures, post-mortems, basically. And always interesting to scroll through. And there's even a single security company in there. I still feel like, I think one of the stats they've got is 70%, of upstart tech companies fail, usually around 20 months after first raising financing, with around 1.3 million in total funding closed before they fail. I don't, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think security is like that. I think security kind of bucks that trend, and it's at least flips that number, where it's a much smaller portion that just kind of fail and disappear. I mean, we've seen some bad exits, but even a bad security company still gets an exit, right?
100%. I think that's why you see such an overinvestment in cyber, is because the return on invested capital tends to be at least break even on many, many deals. Certainly once they're de-risked, say at the A level. I know and talk to plenty of companies that never get seed or can't get from seed to A. Like, that's common. But once you start hitting the A-B level, you're going to at least generally break even on most of them, which is why everybody, all the cyber investors out there, literally beat the hell out of each other trying to get these deals. So really neat. I'm going to dive into that Rubica story. I really would like to hear what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems almost like a messaging issue, messaging and a market positioning issue.
Well, if you read several descriptions and still can't say what they did, I think you identified a problem.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, be interesting to dive into later, but like to hear your feedback on that. But we are at our Squirrel story for today. Trying to figure out like what kind of story I'm looking for, what I want to pull from. But for this week, I'm hoping you haven't read this and you haven't heard much about Amazon's device announcements. And I wanted to do kind of like a bluff the listener game. If you've ever listened to Wait, Don't Tell Me.
I have not, but tell me the rules. I'm in for the game.
Yeah, so the rules are I'm going to give you 3 products, and we're going to do a couple rounds of this. 2 are completely fake. I've made them up, or maybe not completely fake, but they're not a product that Amazon came out with. Maybe they're a product that exists somewhere, and one of the 3 is real. You got to pick the real one.
I love it. Let's go. Secret Squirrel time.
All right. Earlier this week, Amazon announced A, a smart laundry hamper with soil level detection, B, a smart thermostat, or C, a smart cuckoo clock?
I think I know my answer, but I think I'm going to punt and see if Lee is still listening to the descriptions or if he had to drop off. You still there, Lee?
Yeah, Dang it. Lee had to go.
Dang it. All right, I got to take one for the team here.
Hot seat. All right,
hit me again. Hit me again. I heard dirty laundry. I heard thermostat.
Yeah, dirty
thermostat.
laundry.
What's the third
thermostat, cuckoo clock.
I'm going thermostat clock to compete with Google Nest products.
You got it. Nailed it. I intentionally made that first one easy, though. Yeah.
Yes, you got to get harder with these. Come on, if we're going to do some squirrel stuff, give me something challenging.
So the cuckoo clock is actually real, but didn't make it. So Amazon has a program where people will vote on like early versions of products, and I forget what they call the program, but the smart cuckoo clock was actually an option, but people didn't vote for it. Unsurprisingly.
Really, I bet you people just didn't have the time.
All right, next round. Earlier this week, Amazon announced a portable game console that can play PC games. That's A. B, a home security camera that flies around your house and looks for threats. Or C, a line of Alexa-enabled smart refrigerators.
Oh. It's got to be C all day long.
Incorrect. It is a smart, it's a drone that flies around your house.
like a fly, drone. Like just buzzing around your house and filming stuff it thinks is risky.
Yeah, just like patrolling your house.
Oh, I'm buying that in a heartbeat. On it. I'm going to order one of those, and we'll see it on a later episode of ESW. You'll see it back here somewhere.
At some point, there will be a GIF of someone swinging a baseball bat at one of those.
Too funny.
All right. Earlier this week, Amazon announced A, a robotic vacuum, B, a robotic pet fish that lives and swims in a real water-filled aquarium, or C, a robot that follows you around in case you maybe have a question or something.
I think I saw this one, and I think it's C, and it actually has a camera attached to its head.
Correct. A camera that extends 4 feet up telescopically.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
That's not 4 feet. I'm taller than that. 4 feet's more like this.
That's the one I saw, and I was like, it looks like a Wall-E thing with an extending periscope or something.
Yep. Yeah, basically. It's I forget what they call it. It's that
too will be something I will waste my money on someday.
Yeah, a lot of these are invite only, so it's really still testing phases. Like you can get one if you get selected. You know, if you put your name in the hat. But
hey, we're important influencers in the market. Why are we not being selected? Come on.
Well, you got to put your name in the hat first.
Well, let's put our names in there. Come on.
All right. I'm game. It reminds me, Sony used to sell a robotic dog called Ibo. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, that thing was stupid. I remember that.
Cost a couple grand or something like that. It was smart enough 20 years ago, I want to say, to like go back and find its charger and lay down on its charger. And this one works the same way.
Yeah, but neither one of them can fetch me a beer, so I'm out.
This has cup holders built into its rump. It can't put anything into cup holders. But if you have somebody else that can put a beer in the cup holder, it can technically bring.
Sorry, the value prop's not there. I could just have somebody else bring me the beer.
Yeah, that's maybe a third party opportunity. A robot that fills up the Astro with whatever you want brought to you.
I love it.
It's called Astro. Astro is the name of the robot.
Gotcha. Named after
that will be a new thing that you can yell on a podcast like this or through someone's phone to trigger in somebody's house and make it do something stupid.
Hey Astro, fetch me a beer.
All right, one more and we're done. Earlier this week, Amazon announced Alexa-enabled hotel rooms, plans to start building brick-and-mortar bookstores nationwide, or a driverless car prototype.
That's the hotel room.
Did you see that one also?
I did not. It's the only one that made sense to me, though. I don't see them competing with Tesla or some of these other autonomous cars. They're too far behind. And what was the middle one? The middle. Oh, the bookstore. That's like, no way, because all the old bookstore. I can't find a bookstore within 100 miles of where I live. I highly doubt they're going to want to get into that market.
So they actually have built a couple, but they haven't gone nationwide. They do have some brick and mortar. They do have some brick and mortar stores, and they have talked about going nationwide with that. I mean, this is a company that owns Whole Foods, right? Like they've already got brick and mortar retail countrywide.
Yeah, I just don't think that people buy physical books to the quantity that they used to anymore, and it'll just be a shrinking number, so I wouldn't see them entering it. But who knows? I've been wrong many, many times this week alone.
I've got a Barnes & Noble next to me, and it stays pretty full, and I hope it doesn't go away, because I still enjoy wandering around a bookstore personally. Call me
They closed the one here.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So Disney and Amazon partner on a custom voice assistant, Hey Disney, and Echo rollout to Walt Disney World Resort hotels. So you got 2 of the 4. Very good.
Hey, all right. 50% is better than I did in college.
And I mean, it's crazy stuff these days. It's like, trying to guess what some of these tech companies are going to come out with. Who knows? All right. Thanks so much, Tyler. And thank you to Lee, who's already dropped off, for joining me today. And big thanks to everyone for watching and listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly.